I'm kissing my people-pleasing era goodbye, and you can too. In this episode, we are discussing why we are people pleasers, how it's holding us back in business, and what we can do to change. So get out your favorite notebook, ladies. Let's take some notes or pour yourself a big glass of wine because this one is gonna hit home. Hey there, gorgeous, and welcome to the Influence Over 40 podcast. I'm your host, Annie Kilko, and this is your go-to podcast for navigating the empty nest era with confidence and entrepreneurial spirit. I'm that crazy dog mama adjusting to life after kids and quite honestly, still trying to figure out what I want to do for a living. I'm a former boutique owner and seasoned mompreneur, and this show is dedicated to empowering women just like me, over 40, to embrace their unique journeys and thrive in the digital age. Join me for inspiring discussions on confidence building tips, mindset work, social media strategies, and how to be successful as an introvert and essential business tools. I'll also give you the real scoop on whether I think the latest and greatest digital way to make money is the real deal or a huge waste of time and dollars. Whether you're looking to reinvent yourself or take your business to new heights, I'm here to help you chase your dreams and be unapologetically and authentically yourself online. Follow the Influence Over 40 podcast and don't miss out on all the valuable tips and tools to make your business journey and 2.0 era easier. Hey there, loves, and welcome back. I am so glad that you are here for another episode of Influence Over 40. And today we are talking about something that, it's kind of, gives me some anxiety inside. People pleasing. Most of us have probably been there. And if you're introverted like me, then you may also have some people pleasing tendencies. We just really want people to like us and to do business with us. And that's okay. But what these people pleasing tendencies are actually doing is putting us last. And you know the saying goes, if you ain't first, you're last. Thank you, Ricky Bobby, for that, Jim. And it's kind of true. It really is kind of true. So many times, I've been mad at myself for saying yes when I really didn't want to. You may have also done something like that. Like you feel like maybe it's not really worth your time, but you really want to feel helpful and wanted. And I've had countless times, I literally couldn't help myself. I just couldn't say no. So instead, I go sit in my car and I scream at the top of my lungs, or I scream into my pillow when I get home. But then you know what I do? I put on a smile and I go do what it is that I said that I was going to do. And if you kind of giggled to yourself, chuckled at that particular scenario, it can only mean that you've done something similar and you really understand where I'm coming from this. So, the question is can we turn off that people pleasing within us? And I really think that we can. We've got to work hard at it and we've got to retrain our brain, but I think that it can be done. So let me ask you this. Have you ever thought about saying or texting this phrase? Actually, that doesn't work for me. Can you do this instead? And how does that make you feel? How does that phrase make you feel? How did it make you feel when you heard that? Because for me, immediately, it made me feel guilty, right? And I know it's like, why do we have this guilt? Why would that statement give us guilt? It's because we're people pleasers and it's frustrating and we've got to figure that out. So I actually used that phrase for the first time the other day without any guilt. I know, I'm shocked, just as shocked as you are. But if I can do it, so can you. Before we can talk about ways that you can overcome your people pleasing, we really need to have a good understanding of where it's stemming from. Where did this desire, where did this need, I don't think it's a desire, I think it's a need. Where did this need to people please come from? Some people pleasing happens as a coping mechanism. So it could be a response to anxiety. It could be a response to having like low self-esteem. It could be for fear of rejection, a response to the fear of rejection. I completely get all of those. Like, I don't want to have to tell somebody no, and that is an anxiety in me. I think that, I don't necessarily agree with having the low self-esteem, but I do have the fear of rejection. So I might put myself into a particular situation that I don't really want to be in just because, one, I don't want to tell somebody no, or it could be that I really, was afraid that somebody was going to reject me in some way. And so I just do something that doesn't put me first and people pleases instead. Other places that it could come from is like an impact of a childhood experience. And I would say for me, this is probably the one that I relate to the most. I have a very specific memory of a time where I think my people pleasing probably stems from. So mine was from when I was 8 years old. I have a very vivid memory of a time when I was 8 years old where my stepmother said something to me along the lines of, "Stop being a baby. You don't need to sit in the booth as the same side as your dad. He needs to sit by me." Of course, as a 8-year-old and an introvert probably at that time, I'm not going to talk back and I'm not going to say that's not fair, that's not right. I immediately fell in line, which is what she was looking for, and I did it. So that was a very vivid memory for me. And as you can imagine, probably even a little traumatic, I suppose. And so our relationship continued like this. If my father showed any type of attention towards me, then my stepmother would become upset. And so I could feel this. I saw it. I heard it. And I learned to make myself smaller so that she would not get mad at me, because she would get mad at him, but she would also be mad at me. And so I learned to operate as such so that my father didn't notice that I was there. So from a very young age, she trained me to dim my light so that hers was brighter when it came to the attention of my dad. And so you can imagine then people pleasing definitely became a way of life for me. And I understood and realized that to make sure that certain people liked me and that there was, I didn't have to worry about being in trouble, then I needed to make sure that I wasn't noticed or I put myself last. I think we were also trained as women, maybe our mothers were trained as women to have particular roles based on gender. So, my mother was definitely one that she waited on my stepdad. I don't want to say hand and foot, but she was very attentive to his needs as far as making sure that, dinner was on the table, or if he was outside working, she would take a drink out to him, or we always did things that were important to him and then things that possibly were important to her. So I saw that growing up as well. And she did that because that's what she saw her mother do with her father. So, there's some expectations there. And so it just goes to show that these things are very deeply ingrained in us. I listened to another podcast recently to a woman that said something that really struck me. She said, "Others can't put you first if you aren't putting yourself first." And that really hit a chord with me. She goes on to say that if you are giving off energy that shows you don't need to be first, then others aren't going to put you first. And this goes for like self-care, for working out, even doing things that, you like to do, but maybe you don't, like reading books or journaling or meditating or, going for walks, just basically anything. So I really thought about this and it made perfect sense to me. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm fixing to put me first. So I've been trying it. And here's what I found to be true for me. And if you're not into the woo-woo, that's completely fine. I definitely am into all the woo-woo things. I'm very big into the energy, into manifesting. So this definitely struck a chord with me. But I will tell you, as soon as I decided to put myself first, and when I say put myself first, I'll tell you a couple of things that I did. One was getting back to the gym. I had been out of the gym for so long, mainly because, I had kind of fallen into this routine of wake up, deal with the dog so that my husband can go to work and do the things that he needs to do, and then come straight upstairs and start working on my business. Well, while I do love that, that isn't really putting me first. I'm not really taking care of myself physically or spiritually. And that's important to me. So I'm like, okay, Annie, you got to switch this up. So I started going back to the gym. And y'all, when I tell you the first day I pulled into the parking lot of the gym, I get out of my car, I am walking to the gym door. Before I could get to the door, I have a phone call. And this name pops up and I'm like, okay, cool, what's she calling about? And it was a past client. It was somebody I had done like a one-off type of work for, but I haven't heard from, I don't know, in a month or so. This person calls my phone and says, hey, I've been thinking about it and I need to book you again. Things have been busy or whatever, but I really have been thinking about it and I want to book you to do the service again. And I'm like, oh, cool. So, we work that out and I go on into the gym and I'm like, okay, I kind of got some tingly, feeling, got goosebumps on my arms. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. And also really fast. And, you could say that it's complete coincidence. And if so, that's fine. It doesn't bother me for you to think that. But for me, that's definitely a sign that I'm doing the right thing and going in the right direction. The second thing that happened, when I started going to the gym, the next day I came home and I was just doing some self-care. So I had gone to the gym, I came home, I was showering. I'm doing this thing called fascia blasting, and that's for another podcast, or you can message me about that and I'll tell you. But it is a form of self-care for me. So I was doing that, and then I had a discovery call with a potential client. So we got on the discovery call and had a good connection. And I was sending over a quote for my services. Well, before I could send that quote for my services over, she had sent me a message on Facebook just telling me that she felt so great about our call, that we had a great connection. She felt so good about me and that she absolutely had to work with me. And, obviously that makes me feel amazing, means the world to me. But it also just reinforced that what I'm doing of putting myself first is absolutely making sure that others are putting me first as well. I've implemented some non-negotiables for myself because of all this, and I'm going to share those with you. I'm going to share what I'm doing with you, and then you can see if maybe these would work for you as well. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I 100% think that you need to try these as well, because when you do, I can almost promise you that you are going to see massive shifts in how others are responding to you. You're going to be happier. You're going to be happy, one, that you're pleasing yourself and you are still helping others. So it's a win-win. It works for both. So the first thing that I've stopped doing, and you're probably going to fall over dead when I tell you this, I've stopped responding to text messages immediately. So if I'm doing something else, let's say I'm sitting here working, or let's say actually more so at the gym. If I'm at the gym doing my workout in the middle of a workout and someone texts me, typically I would stop what I'm doing. I would, completely lose the heart rate being elevated, whatever. And I would respond to this text. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, why? Why was that so important for me to stop what I'm doing to do something for somebody else? It wasn't important, and that's the whole point. So I have stopped responding to text messages immediately if I am doing something else. And I'm not just talking about anybody. I'm talking everyone. This applies to my kids, to my friends, to my clients, even to my husband. Now, he may not know this, so don't tell him that yet. But it goes across the board. Now, obviously, there are going to be exceptions. I mean, obviously, if like my kids are calling where normally they would just be texting me, I'm like, okay, something might be wrong. Let me stop what I'm doing. But when I'm just getting text messages about, random things that can be answered later, I'm not going to stop what I'm doing. They can wait. I need to retrain them as well as I need to retrain myself. Another non-negotiable that I've implemented is when someone asks me to do something, I've started doing it when it's best for me. not when it's best for them. I have been so guilty of doing this. And I'm just sitting here wondering, like, why am I killing myself giving to others when others aren't doing the same for me? This non-negotiable is for clients as well and what I'm working on. It's a biggie for me because I can and I want to give as much value as possible to the point where I tend to do more than what they actually paid for. And why would I do that? My time is not free. I'm not getting anything in return for doing that. So why am I doing that? And not only am I not getting anything in return, if I think about the other things that I could be doing, I could be working for other clients. I could be building my business. I could be learning something new. Matter of fact, I've been putting off completing my website because I am giving too much to others. So instead of being nice and people pleasing, I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be a great human being, but I'm going to actually put myself first. There are all types of scenarios that this applies to. So it even applies to people asking me to get things done quicker than what we originally agreed on. If it works for me and I have the ability to do that and it doesn't push something else, it doesn't require me to work more, to work later, it fits into my schedule, okay, then fine. I'm going to do that because I'm a kind person. But if it doesn't work for me, if it's not putting me first, then it's going to be a hard no. Obviously, there are always going to be exceptions to every single rule. It's not possible in every single situation, but it should be extremely rare that I am doing something for someone else rather than putting myself first. I can remember back to when I was making t-shirts at the store, even before I had the store and I was making t-shirts. Somebody would ask me to make something for them last minute and they literally needed it tomorrow. And I would stop everything. I would stop my entire life. I would stop everything that I was doing and I would do it for them. But why? Did I really need that $7 or $8, maybe $10 that it was going to make me? Or did I really think that it was going to do something more for my business? Did I think they were going to tell somebody that Annie stopped everything that she was doing to make this for me? No, that does not happen. That never happens. And it gets worse. Like I would literally, after doing this, possibly take this shirt to them, deliver it to them, put it in their mailbox, whatever worked for them, because I thought that this was great customer service. And it wasn't great customer service. What it was me being a people pleaser and allowing their needs to come before mine. I stopped my life so that they could have what they needed, even though they weren't being considerate to me by waiting until the last second to ask for something. You can probably hear the frustration in my voice as I'm telling that story because I'm sitting here thinking about it and getting aggravated at myself for doing these things over and over for years. I'm talking for years. And so I'm putting my foot down right now and stopping this because what did that get me? It did not make me happier. It did not really make me more money. All it did was take my time that I could have been doing something else with my family, learning something, doing something else in my business to make money, but I wasn't. I was doing it for somebody else. Another thing that I had realized I was doing as a people pleaser were doing things that weren't necessarily making me money. Just because I can do something doesn't mean that I should do it. And just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do it. I can't even make this up, y'all. My son just called and I declined the phone call because I'm in the middle of this podcast. So let me continue. I've learned through doing a lot of different things that sometimes the juice just isn't worth the squeeze. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but I just want to be real clear. So let's say that a customer asks you to do something for them, something that's pretty simple from the standpoint of you wouldn't charge a lot of money for it, but it's something that may take you, let's say, a couple of hours to complete. If you can't charge what your normal minimum rate is for that project, then why are you doing it? Because you're taking up 2 hours of your life. So let's say your normal amount that you would charge is $50 an hour, but this is an item that you can only sell for, let's say, 25, and it takes you 2 hours to complete this. So that's $100 that you've just spent, $100 that you would pay somebody else to do this if it were you. But you've just only charged this person $25. Why are we doing that? We have got to stop doing that. As people pleasers, that's where the juice is not worth the squeeze, and we have to put ourselves first and say no. I want you to think about your business and what areas have you made it too easy for people? Have you given out your phone number, your personal phone number, for people to reach you 24/7? Is that necessary? Do people really need to reach you after business hours? Is that just making your life harder to make theirs easier? And what is that doing for you? I think in this digital age, we've gotten into this rhythm and a mindset thinking that if we aren't there for them immediately, that they're gonna go somewhere else. And for some subset of customers, that's going to be true. But if that customer goes somewhere else, were they ever really your customer or just a customer? And I know this is all easier said than done. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, I've already trained my customers to do this. So how on earth am I going to get out of it? And that's a very valid question. So let me talk a little bit about that. Now, this is where you're going to do some things that are going to feel uncomfortable, but it's okay. The first thing that I want you to do is silence notifications. And if you don't feel like you can silence notifications, like that's just going to kill you, then I want you to set a calendar appointment for when you go in and actually look at these notifications. And when I say notifications, I'm talking about Facebook notifications, Messenger notifications, TikTok notifications, Instagram notifications, email notifications, text message notifications, voicemail notifications. Every notification that you can possibly silence, you need to go ahead and silence. And no, we're not going to silence these the entire day. It is absolutely reasonable to look at these notifications once in the morning, once in the afternoon, noon, and then again before you leave work. That's what happens in corporate America, and there's no difference for you as a small business owner. Now, this next thing that you're going to do, it might be harder than the notifications, so I want you to brace yourself, ladies. You're going to give options. People love options. They respond better to options than to ultimatums. And even though for you, this is a non-negotiable, I know that you're still a people pleaser and breaking this habit is hard. So what we're going to do is present options. And this is going to allow you to have that feel-good factor still. This is going to allow you to still feel as though you're providing a great customer service. And most importantly, this is going to give you a way to retrain your customers. You're going to have to retrain them on what to expect from you, because up until now, you've given them the expectation that you are there and available 24/7 and you will do whatever it is that they need at any cost. But that stops today. That is a non-negotiable for us to put ourselves first, to stop people pleasing. And so we're going to give them options. And I'm going to show you how to do this. I don't expect you to just jump out there and do this on your own. So I'm going to give you an option on how this would look. So if somebody were, let's say, asking me to make something at the last minute for them, this is how it would look to give them options and respond to them. I would say something like, hey girl, I can definitely do that shirt for you and it will be so cute. What I can do is either do it tomorrow morning or tomorrow night, and then you can pick it up. Which is going to be best for you? And in sales, this is what we call a win-win close. There's no option for a no answer or a yes answer, really. But it gives them options. They can pick this or they can pick that. Either one they pick is fine, because those are both options that work best for you, not for them. So I want to go a step further and break that down just a little bit more for you, because there is a lot in that statement that's really, it's good stuff. It's really important. So first, you're going to start with what you can do for them and that it's going to be great. So absolutely, I can definitely do that for you. And it's going to be so cute. And then you're going to lead into how you can do it and what the options are. I can either do it here or I can do it there. Either one is going to work for you, remember, not for them. And what you're going to end up with, though, is the question, which is very important: which is best for you? That makes it feel like you are, in fact, doing what is it best for them. If you're not familiar with that particular tactic, then I hope that you wrote that down, because it's a really good one and you can use it everywhere. It's not just for using that on clients. You can use that with your kids. You can use that with your husband. It works for everybody. The last thing that I want you to implement to help break these people-pleasing habits is to use this phrase: that doesn't work for me. Could you do this instead? And what you do have to remember when using that phrase is your tone of voice. If you are face to face with someone, you do need to make sure that you are smiling when you say that, and that your inflection, your tone of voice is friendly and helpful, because tone is everything. But you can do that by text. You can do it by email. Any way that you basically communicate with people, that's a great way to say that you can't do something, but you're giving another option or asking what else could they do instead. You're putting it back on them. And let's say that they do ask you that face to face and you're still like, oh my God, I don't want to say no. I'm like, it's starting to creep out of you that you're going to say yes. Instead, say, you know what? I need to check my calendar and I'll get back with you. And that allows you to have some time to put your thoughts together. You can even write it down if that helps to get your thoughts together and make it more clear before you respond with that statement of, that doesn't work for me, but could you do this instead? I know that I have given you a lot to think about today. Talking about being a people pleaser it's not easy, but it's definitely something that we can change. It is, in fact, a habit. It hasn't been ingrained in us, but it is something that we can change. So I really hope that you can take these and implement as non-negotiables in your life to take your time back and to put yourself first. As always, I am so glad that you spent this time with me today. If you like this episode, I'd really appreciate it if you'd rate, subscribe, and review this podcast. It really helps to push my podcast out to other female entrepreneurs and women over 40 wanting to start a business. I'm so glad that you spent this time with me today. I love y'all so much. Mwah!